Chess. International Master William Paschall. I don't know why the screen was not lined up properly, but we're going to get it started and underway here. I try to set up everything before the stream starts, but sometimes the program just doesn't want to cooperate with me. So here we are. It's Thursday. It's March 23rd, 2017. We're playing Blitz and Classical Chess on lichess. If you guys want to challenge me anything between 5-3 and 8-3, I am willing to play a couple of Chess 960 games. At the moment, I have one challenge from Troll on the roll. So if anybody else wants to play like one Chess 960 game, that's absolutely cool. Bappy challenged me to rate it. Bappy, we don't play rated on the stream here. Let me see. Open link in new window. Open link in new tab. We can all check out Bappy's ratings. Oh, you guys, you check out Bappy's ratings, yeah. I don't know if we've played Bappy before. He has 3 games with me. He just forgot that it's required to do unrated games or casual. Casual sounds better, right? Bappy, if you could re-challenge me to something like 8+3. I didn't realize your name was familiar, but I didn't remember if we played or not. Constant Change, King Kong Harry, Plukro, Kyriakos Pez, Troll on the roll. So it's Ayesta. I guess it's Ayesta and HGGGGGGGGG. Bappy is ready. Thank you, Plukro. Good job, man. We're on the same page. Challenges between 5-3 and 8-3. Exactly. 5-3, 5-5. Increments can be 3 seconds up to 5 seconds. Anything in between. That includes 4 seconds, or 4 seconds, or 4 seconds. So, increments 3, 4, or 5. Base time 5, 6, 7, or 8. And the maximum time control of 8+3. It's really difficult. Constant Change, that's a tough first game. King Kong Harry, Plukro, Kyriakos Pez, Trollner. I said this already. Let's get started, guys. I don't have any kind of chess news to report. I was thinking, what chess news do we have? Oh, wait a minute now. Something popped in my mind. I guess the U.S. Championship's coming up, but something else is coming up. I thought another chess event. Do you guys know of any major chess events that are starting? It's always fun when there's like a big tournament going on. I have to prepare everybody because I'm going to be away from the 1st of April to the 11th of April. I'm not physically going away. I'm just going to be away from the stream and not working online, basically. Concentrating for a Grandmaster tournament, Grandmaster Norm tournament I'm playing in here in Budapest. So instead of being smart and playing in a spring festival, as I should have here, I decided to play a closed tournament because my club was paying for it, so why not? Constant Change. Yeah, we had the Caro-Kann going for a while. I'm a little bored with that. Let's go back to the Sicilian. Mikey Slice is hosting us. So challengers, all casual. Thank you, guys. But Mr. Bappy, please re-challenge to casual. Don't just run away. And I'll try to put you back in the middle of the list from whence you came. You were down here, around this part of the list. Against Constant Change, he's really played some interesting games in the Accelerated Dragon. Maybe we'll discuss that again. Suvik, are you Bappy? Yeah, Suvik, I don't know. One day he challenges to unrated, then he suddenly challenges to rated. I don't know. I guess his Bappy account is set to like automatically rated challenges or something. All right, Constant Change. I don't know. I just have one account on lichess. No secret alternative accounts. Constant Change playing a new move here for him. Bishop c4. This is not bad. I think not bad against the early fianchetto. Kind of independent variation. I think that I could try knight f6, but yeah, I mean, knight f6 interesting. He'll just play d3 though. Although maybe they're d5. Not a structure I'm really that fond of, honestly. This move I've actually played once with white. I remember against Vente Vida's brother, with Albert Vida, 2400 Romanian IM. I think I played. I'm lying now. I'm making things up. I was black against Albert Vida. He played that against me. Okay, I've never played this line for white. I just like making up lies. For some reason, I thought for a minute like I must have played it with white, but that's totally made up. All right. So knight to c3. The most dangerous move, as played by Vida Albert, was c3. But he did a strange thing. Like when I played, I think I played like e6 and he did d4 and I took on d4 and he took with a knight, which was really odd. You know, I don't understand like why he wouldn't take back with a pawn on d4. That's the normal modus operandi. Now knight to c3, it's just transposing to a kind of defensive setup for white. I think it's much more aggressive to play c3. I did play this once with white, I think. But it wasn't against Vida Albert. It was against somebody else. But I played c3, which is far more aggressive. I mean, white wants to play like c3, d4. And if black plays e6 and d5, the black pawn structure has some weaknesses in it, so I think it's not that easy to play. But with knight c3, it's more like black's playing black with the tempo more. White's playing black with the tempo more. I'll be alright when the smoke clears. I'm still not awake yet, apparently. I'm saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Making up lies, fake news about my games, and I can't even speak normally. I'll be alright. I didn't have a really normal coffee. I had like an instant coffee this morning. I think that might be the problem. Blue Crow, you're living in France. What do you think? You probably have some good coffee in Paris. I don't know, but the instant coffee is probably not going to cut it. Bishop c4 is quite good against g6. It is, in fact, and I'm sure its score is quite good too. I don't have a database open while I'm playing, of course, but I've always sort of not feared it, but kind of like not really liked playing against bishop c4. And lately, it's a very typical system, but as an offensive system, c3 is better. This is more of defense for white. You see, he played a3. There was an English player, or from the UK, the Royal Python was his name. He was playing on my stream a lot last year, and then he sort of said he was getting married or something, and then disappeared. See, that's the danger with getting married, guys. It might end your chess career. But seriously, Royal Python always played this system, and he's not the only one. There have been a number of players regularly on my stream who played setups based on bishop c4. This is basically like an English opening with colors reversed. I got a nice double mug of Senseo Kenyan coffee. Yeah, normally I'm not drinking instant, but I just didn't have the resources to get a real coffee this morning. It happens occasionally. I thought at least there might be some caffeine in the contents of the instant coffee, but I'm not so sure anymore. I don't really feel all that awake yet. A few chess games is probably a better way to naturally wake up than caffeine anyway. Kyria Kospaz, missed you yesterday. You challenged and then you were away from the computer toward the end of the stream, so we never got to play. Tomorrow, guys, is my Fast Friday stream, 5+3 only. So remember in advance. Blue Crow says a lot of beginners play bishop c4 because they just develop. Strong players have tried it. I'm sure it's an okay move. Well, I think it's especially an okay defense against the English. It's really a solid setup for white. This bishop g5 by constant change it's probably been played before. It's not really the standard, because I think you're probably forcing me to make a somewhat useful move here with h6. You know, I mean, that's something that, to be honest, you might view this as a weakness, but actually, in this type of setup, we're keeping you off of g5 with the knight, which is very useful. After this move, I mean, he may basically almost like... Okay, that I'm surprised by bishop h4. I would normally expect like bishop f4. I've had some people do that. Not out of hand necessarily terrible for black. He wants to play like bishop g3 and use this possibility. I mean, a6 has got to be a useful move around here somewhere. It's not essential though. Bishop h4. Definitely non-standard. I mean, bishop g5 is non-standard, but then I'd expect it to retreat back to like f4. So we could play something like knight g6, g5, bishop g3, knight g6, but then knight b5 is a really nasty threat. So I guess we'll play a6, taking away the knight b5 ideas. He doesn't have very good control of d4. He has to watch this pawn push. Obviously, constant change experimenting with a new system. He probably hasn't played very much. Tom YouTube says, when do you start streaming every day? This time, most days, Monday to Friday, we're streaming between 10 and 12:30-ish. Sometimes a little bit longer on Mondays if I can. I think next week we'll probably do a Monday stream till 1 o'clock. Usually most of my streams are 2.5 hours. After 2.5 hours, I start getting like, my brain starts getting kind of tired, and my voice as well. But I think the 2.5 is a good amount to stream. 3 hours is kind of the maximum for me. My simul streams on Sundays tend to run about 3 hours. So g5, I mean, isn't something I mind doing. Korchnoi did that against Stefan Sabo in a very, very famous game with white. I really think that it's probably appropriate here, in fact. We haven't even castled. Originally I wanted to play knight g6, but then he can play and then he can play bishop d6, which I missed. So we're going to play like this. When it's hard to see like what white's plan is here. This could be a situation where I could even push these pawns up. Mid king, king mid. You challenged me under your other account. Okay, guys, I don't know if I'm going to get to all the challenges. There's a massive amount of challenges for some reason today. There's like 10 challenges. There's a chance we'll play all those challenges, but that would be it for the day probably. Okay, rook b1. I'm a little concerned about my development here. But h5. h5 and g4 are coming to mind. I can also play knight e5 at some point. What about this bishop? And he may be trying to play like b4. I think we should go for it. h3, g4. Pawn takes pawn, knight h2. I don't think I can afford to do that. Maybe I can play knight e5. This is a little crazy, you know, to play h5, but he can't play b4 because of the knight hanging on c3. He doesn't have any piece sacrifices. Eidos Perpetuo says, I see you upped your day streaming. What do you mean by that? Bishop takes e5 is not out of hand crazy here either. Trading off his dark square controller and just kind of keeping control of the center. It's a tough call. There's something to be said for bishop takes. Let's do it. I don't know. It's kind of a really tough decision. Knight takes or bishop takes. This feels more in keeping with this idea of attacking him on the king's side. Maybe trading off that dark square bishop. Of course, if we do trade off, it's going to give him more of a free hand in the center on the queen side with stuff like b4. So, double-edged. Maybe I take with a pawn and then try to checkmate him or something. Actually, interesting position, to be honest. Take back with a pawn and then go for it. As in there is more days. Is there? Eidos Perpetual? I don't know. More different kinds of streams. I don't know. I thought I was always doing Monday to Friday and Sunday. I can't remember what happened last week. I have early onset, you know, memory loss. Without my normal coffee, guys, I feel kind of dizzy this morning. Black parting with the DSB. Yeah, I don't know. It's very debatable. It was a very debatable decision. This is interesting, this queen f3 business. But I think that we're going to just pause for commercial identification here. Guys, don't forget about my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Plucro, very, very key point is the e5 square. I try to use this in this variation in particular. Sometimes I do really rather extreme stuff. He's got me sort of frozen. Maybe I should play king f8, king g7. It's basically just degenerated into a blitz game. This is what I expected. And d4. It's an aggressive move. I guess I expected him to play differently. Wow, he's just coming with every move. speed at which he's coming up with moves. Sort of disturbing. Tactically, constant change seems extremely strong. He's not bad positionally either. He's gained I don't know, like 200 rating points lately. But this was a only move, bishop c6. Now I'm afraid to say it, but I think I'm better. That was very fortunate. I mean, it looked like I was about to fall apart. If we check the analysis, my king side was very precarious after king f8, so I don't know if it was like fully sound or not. I was about to resign right before I played bishop c6. Thought I was just losing a piece. I wouldn't be afraid to be better. h4. What's that about h4? Yeah, apparently I was never really in trouble because of the tactical resource, but constant change was close to taking me out. My pieces were extremely precariously placed. A good game, man. Alright, let's move on. We don't have a lot of time and we have tons of challenges. I'm probably not gonna get to them all. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Not waste, but I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time analyzing played games like we do sometimes when the pace is a little bit less demanding. King Kong Harry. King Kong Harry. Let's play an Alekine's defense. I wouldn't be afraid to be better. I'm afraid to misevaluate. I'm basically pessimistic by nature. Good on you not to resign. It happened quite a few times, like Plukro said, that I've been resigning before it was necessary. Like when I thought I was losing a piece. Generally, when I think I'm losing a piece, I resign. And this has happened twice in recent memory when I resigned and I wasn't actually lost. And one of my students did this recently, last week. So I hope it's not like catching or something. King Kong Harry just played knight c3. Well, we have to make a decision here what we're going to play. And the problem is I end up in a kind of weird... If I play c5, I end up in a Grand Prix attack with my knight on already f6. Knight already on f6, maybe. Which isn't really optimal. So I guess we'll stay in Peart's waters. I wonder if... Actually, I should play d5 there and transpose to the... That's probably the best move. Objectively. Alright. Objectively, e5 is probably the best move. But I don't really like playing the black side of the Vienna. I don't know it that well. I should probably learn more. I wanted to play Alekine's defense, and then why don't I play d5? That's my main move. I'm a little bit lame in the brain today for some reason. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyway, I don't mind transposing to a Peart's. So one of my students resigned. He just miscalculated and thought he was losing a piece, and I didn't realize he was getting it back. But I hope that it's not contagious, this tendency to resign too early. I don't know of any tournament games where I resigned outrageously early, except for the famous game against Kamsky where I resigned the pawn down. But Kamsky torturing me for 100 moves up a pawn didn't really seem like a very pleasant prospect. I had a bad position. I mean, I was close to lost anyway, so a pawn down against Kamsky is like being down a piece against someone else. Bishop e3. I'm going to delay bishop g7. Probably the main line for black. Blue could e5 and d5 both fine, but can be boring depending on white's choice. Everything can be boring, right? White can play the London system. Maybe the Vienna can be boring too if white doesn't really play normal lines. You know, white could transpose to the 4 knights or something. Some really boring stuff. g3. If white wants a boring game of chess, it's not that easy for black to inject life into the game. With white, you have a lot more flexibility. No, I felt like Constant Change had taken the initiative there, and I just kind of was being very pessimistic, thinking that it was over. My king was exposed, but we were just in time. Bishop c6, just by complete chance, saved my game. Okay, now black wants to counterplay on the queen side, usually. I would imagine knight d7. b5, though. The question about b5 here is it's looking a little too early to play b5, I would think. b5, e5, b4, actually. Maybe it's not too early to play b5. It's probably never too early to play b5, huh? I don't know. I don't know the theory. I'm just playing for fun. We don't seriously play the Pirts, we being me, in third person. Or us, you know, because we're doing this together here on the stream. That's why I kind of use the third person descriptive tense sometimes. Okay, bishop d3. This is a very safe move. King Kong Harry. Looks like a solid player in around 1800. Once they play bishop d3, you know, I think the possibility for black to play e5 becomes something of a reality. Take care with playing knight g4 before you've even played e5 in these kind of positions, though. That's usually a problem. Knight bd7 looks like a good compromisu type of move. Not really tipping my hand. About my future intentions, whether they be e5 or not. I can also play on the queen side. But now he played f4, which is obviously a sort of super aggressive move. We have two options here, I think. To play e5 and get some stake in the center, or play knight g4 going for his dark squared bishop. You know, this is the real question. Knight g4, e5, for example. I can wait and play. Maybe bg7 there. If I just play e5 now, white just continues to naturally develop with something like f4, and I feel like white's better. So I think that we should take this opportunity to get the bishop pair, get rid of a dangerous piece. If white played knight f3, would you have played bishop g5 or not at all? Do you want to keep the bishop? Yeah, I mean, on move 6, I'm not an expert at all in the Pierts. But knight f3 is probably like... No, I wouldn't consider playing bishop g4. We're just looking for counterplay on the queen side. You know, in the case that he's trying to castle queen side quickly, we want to be able to play b5, knight bd7, queen a5, stuff like that. I don't think that bishop g4 is a serious thing. Okay, so we've got to take this and get developed before it's too late. How about e5 here? Seems like an interesting idea, since he doesn't have a lot of dark square control. It also looks extremely risky for black, but we could open up our dark squared bishop, potentially. Obviously, don't try this at home. It looks very, very dangerous. Black's position is pretty rickety. But white has a lot of dark square weaknesses that, you know, kind of haunt him here because the dark square bishop is gone. He has difficulty controlling the dark squares. c5. There's possibilities of my bishop going to c5, going to g7, going to h6. A computer would probably make short order of me here, one way or another, you know, but against a human being, I feel like black has a chance to take the initiative based on having the bishop pair. Honestly, I was kind of scared when I played knight g4, mostly of this move. Honestly, it looks promising for white, you know. He gets this e4 square for pieces, like knight e4 and bishop e4. It's a pretty standard advance in these type of setups. I don't know what I do there. I mean, I could play d5 and like lock the structure, but I think that's probably the critical try. Not that what he did is bad necessarily. Now he played h4, which looks strange. I mean, does white have time for this kind of thing? I guess so. It doesn't seem that I have anything tremendous. I thought I would have something better, but I don't see anything. So h4 it is. Not a bad move, I guess. Hyper aggressive. Even hyper. Underestimated h4. If I hadn't played b5, I'd definitely have a good game here. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic again. I don't know. Giving up the center. But yeah, suddenly I realized he can also play queen takes, which is very complicated. extremely sharp position. Black kind of pushing the envelope as far as soundness goes here. I mean, I'm not very well developed. But then again, I mean, his bishop on d3 is not great. He has dark square weaknesses. So I feel like black has some fundamental chances. Unopposed dark square bishop could become very strong. In an endgame, I kind of like my position here. h4 was a crazy move, but actually might be good. Seems like a crazy move, you know. It's not the most fundamental move. Something like castles would be much more principled, but this kind of move can be very effective. If I played routinely there, I could just get beaten up. Knight d5 ideas, yeah, maybe. But now I feel like I've got a really good dragon. He's sort of backpedaled. I'm not sure if knight f6 was the right choice, but it felt natural to control g4 and discourage h5. And I can castle kingside. I think white just didn't really make up his mind. Here, now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Knight g4. Knight g4 and h5 looks like a reasonable try. He's got to be very careful where to put his queen. Then I play h5. He played f5. I see. I was going to castle kingside, but now I'm having second thoughts. Castling queenside is possible too. So as long as I trade queens, I mean... Actually, why would I trade queens here? I can win the exchange. Famous last words. Extremely dangerous decision. Now that queen h2 and he can keep the queens on, I mean, maybe that's just for a moment. I mean, I'm sure this was unsound the way I played this, but I'm just curious where we left theory. Queen d2, b5's main line. I'm actually not. I wasn't sure about that. Bishop d3, knight bd7's main line, and then f4. This is a rare move. And only 2 games featuring f4. And the lichess database is not complete. It doesn't have a lot of older games. So my 2 moves are interesting here. Well, we're really out of book. Leonid Gershaw, whoever that is, from Israel, I think. Those could be correspondence players for all I know. It sounds familiar. So I thought white had e5 here. The computer's like really unconvinced though by that. Wow. So knight f3, knight takes e3. We're following 2 games. Throster Thorolson battering some 2200 back in 2001. Wow, so I played the novelty. The computer likes this move, e5. I'm not a cyborg. My intuition told me that e5 is best. That's what the Stockfish likes. On a very short time of analysis. e5, TN. Yours truly. Alright. Good opening, me. I didn't even play the Pierts. Alright. Blue Crow, it's not Weird Wednesday, so I can play whatever I want. Oh. Rickety, rickety, wrecked. Yeah, it was pretty scary. I mean, the Pierce is a fun opening, but you've got to be willing to play very dynamically, you know, and the Pierce modern, I mean, it's a good way to try to beat weaker players. I did a video for chesslecture.com a few weeks ago. Ilya Smirin played just an absolutely great game against Van Foreest somewhere recently. Smirin is such a professional, though, in the opening. It's ridiculous. Alright, c4, knight c6, knight c3. Anything involving a bishop being fianchettoed by Ilya Smirin, you know, on g7, you have to be very careful when you're white. It was like a Grunfeld or King's Indian or Pierce or Modern. He's pretty much a specialist with every kind of black fianchettoing the bishop on g7 opening. Pierce takes a lot of practice and a lot of study. Oh no, 4 knights, I saw the video. Well, that's just one variation. On my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube, I analyzed some 4 knights English variation with bishop c5. But that's just one particular line. I'm not an officially expert English opening theoretician or any opening theoretician. It's not really my specialty, you know. I think I'm average in terms of my rating level as far as opening knowledge. Average or even slightly below average. My strengths are more like middle game and practical play and technique. But maybe you're programmed to think you're not a cyborg. The e5 move, it looks scary, but it's actually best, probably. Notice that the other 2 players, one was a 2200, one was some 2500. The other 2 players didn't play e5. They were scared because it looks scary. This is a bad move, Plukro. Fischer-Korchnoi. d6. I mean, Korchnoi-Fischer. Which is a very good game. Fischer sacked in exchange and luckily drew, but he was probably much worse. E takes d4. Now, if black could play d5, he would be okay here. The problem is that your knight's on c6 too early. d6 isn't so bad. I think this is fully playable. Why can't I go back in time here? Yeah, d6. My friend Salanci Emil tries to play very strange variations with like d5, knight a5, which are interesting. And I'm not, you know, fully sold one way or the other on those, but against, how was it now? Against Korchnoi, the game was Korchnoi-Fischer d5, knight e5. And then I believe that after knight d2, Fischer played f5, and so the knight could go back to f7. To me, that seems a little bit more, I don't know, more, let's see the real position. More realistic than putting the knight on a5. Okay, this is probably a theoretical novelty, queen a5. There's actually no threat with this move. He's threatening to threaten something. He's threatening to threaten to play d5, or what? What's the deal? Threatening to threaten d5. Well, you're kind of like trying to... You're asking for trouble, basically, Plukro. That's how it seems to me. Okay, if d5, knight e5, and... Well, his queen is strange on a5, admittedly. Once Alexander Ivanov did something like a line where he He later took on c3 twice and sacrificed his long dark square diagonal bishop to win a pawn and then park his queen on g7 against me. Bishop e2 is fine here. Maybe that's best. Threatening to threaten. I'm going to need to play bishop e2 at some point anyway. I can play d5 when I want. He can't stop d5. And in the meantime, you know, it's hard for him to come up with a constructive move. Knight f6 gets in the way of his bishop. Knight h6 makes it so that he can't play d5, knight e5. d6 is probably what he'll end up doing, but it's like kind of passive for black. Queen a5 is just a weird move, basically. So I've been studying pawn structures of late to help me plan the middle game. I want to learn how to read middle game positions better. Any ideas? Well, this is actually an interesting pawn structure that's very favorable for white. You know, typically what will happen is the black will play d6 and later on will play d5. I think the pawn structures are absolutely essential. You know, very huge importance in determining strategy for both sides. These positions are particularly bad for black because black is just backward along the half-open e-file, you know, and that sort of leaves black in a very unpleasant position for pretty much the whole game. That's what I'm talking about. d5, and there's no knight e5. So I guess the lesser of the evils for black there would be to play d6 instead of knight f6, but still doesn't resolve how his king side's getting developed. Maybe d6, knight h6, trying to bring the knight to f5, or queen a5 just doesn't help. It just doesn't have any point in this position. This actually cuts it off too, so now it doesn't have any lateral mobility. Pawn Structure Chess, Andy Soltis. There are probably better books on pawn structure. I guess the Soltis book is kind of controversial. There's some good examples in there, possibly. Knight takes c3. Blue-Crow's like lost his mind entirely here. Bishop takes c3. I'm definitely confused. So you get a few pawns for the piece. Is that what you're telling me? Well, like, what's happening there? Take on d2, knight takes d2. Why not take on d2? I don't want to bash Soltis's book, but there's a number of books on pawn structure chess. I mean, the all-time classic is the best, probably, you know. Pawn Power in Chess by Hans Kmock. I don't think you really need another book. I mean, after that, you know, Soltis needs to make money selling chess books, and he's a good player, and I respect him. But, you know, there are just a lot of the similar books on pawn structure. The classics are usually the best. I don't know which is the best way to take here. Maybe taking on b7 rather than opening up the d file. Well, I don't know. I mean, I had a student who was reading the Soltis book, and we looked at some of the examples. I mean, some of them seem kind of semi-random. You can't go wrong with Kamak book, though. Some people make fun of it because he makes up all these weird words and terminologies for pawn structures, but they're just being kind of childish. I mean, it's a very, very good book. The best book ever written on pawn structure. Blue Crow is familiar with... He seems to be familiar with how the pieces move. Now, how much material do I have here to give back? Rook f5 was played. My intention was to just take. Blue Crow, you're confusing me and my head hurts. Obviously, Blue Crow has read pawn power in chess. You can really tell by his play. Everything is about pawn structure for him here. He read piece power. Piece power in chess. Kyrgios has 6+5. Well, Andy Soltis sort of specializes in writing like super digestible type of books that are geared toward more beginners. Except for his book Confessions of a Grandmaster, which is like, that's kind of like just a autobiographical analyzing of a lot of his games and stuff, which is his best book, I think. It's kind of interesting to see like Soltis actually talking about his chess career rather than like watered down sort of beginners books. He was a fantastic player, but he's also a journalist for the New York Times. Maybe he's retired by now. I don't know if he's still working, but if he's still working, Queen's Indian, b6. I don't think I've played a Queen's Indian on the stream. I always play Bogo, and actually I like the Queen's Indian, but I sort of reserve it for like a super solid opening against strong opponents. You know, if I just want to make a draw with black, I'll usually try to play the Queen's Indian. Whereas the Bogo is a little bit more aggressive. But I think that the Bogo is maybe arguably slightly less correct because of knight bd2, bishop b4 check, knight bd2. And in some instances, black has to give up the bishop or give up make some kind of major concession, like losing time or giving up the bishop for not quite enough. I think the Queen's Indian is a little bit more fundamentally sound than the Bogo Indian. Go out on a limb there. E3 from Kyrgios. Actually, this is a somewhat poisonous variation for black. It's easy for black to go wrong. Now C5. This is the most dynamic approach. You can also play D5 at pretty much any point. But he's not supposed to take on C5. Obviously, White's supposed to play knight to C3. And Black has to take on d4. Otherwise, d5 comes in, and white gets a strategic advantage. Taking on c5 is pretty much harmless. Black can take back either way here. I don't know. I guess it's a matter of taste. B takes c seems more it seems more ambitious for black to take back with a pawn. The other way is like safer. But that's like equality, you know. Basically, bishop takes c5 is equality, and with b takes c, we're taking some risk, creating a more imbalanced kind of pawn structure, playing for a win. But if I was playing a super high-rated guy, I would probably play it safe with bishop takes c5. There's a question now about black whether I should play d5 or not. d5 will leave me with hanging pawns. d6 gives me more flexibility. And I like to have more flexibility in general. Gives us more options, more ways for the opponent to make a mistake in the long run. He's threatening to win a pawn here. Knight c6 is a more aggressive square for my knight, but it also blocks my bishop. Same thing goes for his knight, actually. So he wants to play Rubinstein. This is Rubinstein's favorite, like, piece configuration with white. It's like a queen's gambit accepted, reversed. He would play through knight e4, and then like knight takes e4, trading all the pieces through e4, keeping some kind of small positional advantage. Knight g5 is also possible. I want to chip away at his structure with a5, a4. Of course, it may be more fundamental to develop a piece, but at the moment, I don't know, what would my developing move be? Something like queen c7? Maybe I need my queen to protect here. f6. This doesn't hurt. You know, he's bearing down on f6. Tactical possibilities against f6 and h7, so I must feel like my pieces are well placed. This rook could go to e8, maybe. It's basically a kind of hedgehog formation for black. I could certainly have played d5 instead of d6. It would be a totally different game, giving white and black, you know, both much different possibilities. Well, h6 or g6, obviously. He's going to trade pieces through e4. White's playing excellently here. Actually, Kyrgios doesn't have too many classical games. I never really thought about it. Only 100. He mostly plays just blitz. But he can be surprising. He's actually won a couple nice games against me. Despite his score not being great, he can play a very good strategic game. What to do now? Maybe I should play d5, actually, because I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of gonna get killed with f4 and this very aggressive type of setup if I don't do something here to get enough control of the center. Let's change paths, and this taking away the square from him seems like a really good thing to do. Right about now, it's equal. I think it's equal. If I play too passively, he might even get an attack. Once I had a game in a similar position where actually I did h4. But I don't think I was castled in that game. The aforementioned game did not involve castling. Okay, so bishop takes or knight takes. The important question. It would seem like intelligent to get rid of that powerful bishop on b2. But white structurally a little bit better. Take with the queen. I guess I didn't have to take with the queen, but if I don't take with the queen, I take with the knight, he takes on d5, I have to take with the queen on d5. Leaving me with an isolated pawn on c5. I don't really like that. It might be okay though, because I'm very, very active. Uh-oh. Alright, now there is calculation required. White's just a tiny bit better. Bishop takes is not good. Rather keep the pawns together, the hanging pawns. But we have this, which was what I was making sure about. When it should be approximately equal. Queen's Indian. Okay, c5 is protected. We can play a4. But I don't know if I want to let the cat out of the bag there. We should try to play aggressively. Play for a4. If he plays b4, we play c4. But maybe we should reinforce our pawn a little bit more. I think this is objectively equal. Now he's got a really good blockading square at d4 though. He's also stopping me from going knight e5, which I really wanted to do. So maybe we can play knight f6. Guarding our d-pawn. Okay, it's chances for both sides. Theoretically, white's pawn structure is better. But things can change if I play a4. White will also have a weakness. So it's a complicated, apparently simple, but actually rather complicated situation where it all hinges on putting pressure on the other guy's pawns. I mean, a4, so far he's kept it out of the realm of possibility because I don't like allowing him to blockade with like b4, c4. And, okay, he's not forced to do that either. Yeah, it's probably equal. Not really seriously better for either side. But I don't want to allow b4. The whole problem has been this pin, which enables him to play b4 all the time. He doesn't have knight g5. He doesn't have any moves with his knight. We finally get in a4. I mean, it's possible I can allow him to blockade with knight d4, still have the advantage, because I have a protected passed pawn. I've certainly been in this kind of situation a lot with white. Now there's a question, whose pawn is weaker, this pawn or this pawn? And I think that both sides have played a totally normal game. Might be a little harder for him somehow. But not that easy actually for me to make progress here. How do I make progress? Oh man, I don't know. C4, maybe just pushing the pawn. C4 takes. Alright, let's go for it. Even if I lost the pawn, like, theoretically, which hopefully won't happen, I mean, him winning 4 against 3 is not real likely, you know? So I don't have really any serious risks with this, you know? Even if I lose the pawn, objectively, it should still probably be a draw with 4 pawns against 3 on the same side of the board. In any kind of endgame, like rook endgame, queen endgame, even a knight endgame is usually a draw. So black doesn't have that much risk here. Of the pawn, if it falls somehow, c'est la vie. But I think that pawn is... We're going to use it as a kind of distraction, you know, to try to create a second target. We'd like to get at his king. Use this pawn to just sort of disorganize him. I can support it with knight e4. Okay, now the question is... I don't really like trading queens here. We should stay as active as possible. Hint, hint. All right, trading one rook. That probably helps him, honestly. That queen is taking away a lot of squares from my king. He's played really well this game. Trying to challenge the blockade. In the ending, can he maintain the blockade? It's a logical move. Tricky ending, but I think objectively it's probably okay for him. Defending like a beast. I just don't really see how to win. This is probably a fair result. So I'll for a draw here. I don't know. If you look at the analysis board, I think this is going to be a well-played game by both sides. I don't think there were too many mistakes, and I don't think anybody was ever winning this game. You know, there were a lot of possibilities for both sides. I was a little bit better with that passed pawn, but we'll see. Like, let's let the analysis thing run, and obviously don't trust the stockfish analysis. You know, over a very quick analysis, it's going to miss a lot of stuff over the horizon. We're going to see here that Kyrgios made like very few center pawn loss, and as I did as well. No inaccuracies, no mistakes, no blunders. 8 center pawn loss, 7 center pawn loss for white, 6 center pawn loss for black. That's, you know, that's a 38 move game. Nothing really happened tactically. That's why I guess the computer didn't think there was any real inaccuracies by both sides. But I could have made some practical decisions differently. You know, that maybe trading the pieces was the wrong idea. That's really the key question. We're gonna play e4. Yesterday's very solid. Recently started playing on the stream. I found his style to be quite classical, and I was commenting on it yesterday. Although d5 is not what I expected. You know, I expected him to be more of a classical player. I don't think I played e4 against him. Scando. Okay, with queen d6. I tried to play this line a little bit. What was your center pawn loss? 7, 6, 6, and he was 7. He was 7, I was 6. I was like 1 center pawn less than him. Either he was 8 and I was 7, or he was... You can look at the game, up and comer. If you click on the game, it will show you the same. I think it automatically saves that. Isn't that how it works? So I guess here, I did play Queen d6 Scandinavian. It was very popular 10 years ago. I never had much success with it, but I never played it that much either. The main line is a6, but a lot of players play c6 as well. This or g6, but c6 probably stops knight b5. It becomes more like a Caro-Kann in these type of positions. Now, I'm not sure that g3 makes a lot of sense, as it does against a6. I think here we should play more classically, with black playing... Now, maybe bishop e6 is his idea, against stuff like bishop c4. So knight e5 looks aggressive. Playing like classical Scandinavian style. You've heard queen d6 is best. I don't think it's best. I think it's just hard to say what's best, you know? I mean, I think that queen d6 and queen a5 is safer, you know, honestly. I mean, I think that queen d6 is actually risky. Probably you're safer playing queen a5, actually. You really have to be very, very careful with queen d6, you know? I wouldn't recommend beginners to play, well, in general, the Scandinavian, but at least on a queen a5, your queen is a little bit less likely to get into trouble. Knight bd7 right away. Well, I mean, bishop f4, what's the deal? Queen b4? We also have just knight c4. That seems like the right move. Kind of like, well, this is probably book, actually. This is probably some Tivyakov theory. Knight c4, yeah, it's like a Slav, almost. You know, now it looks a lot like a Slav, actually. Now I should do, like, g3, bishop f4. It's not forced, though. I could play simply bishop e2, probably. I wonder about d5, though. Is that a problem for black? If he allows d5? Or am I just trading off my central pawn for nothing? I don't know. My development is not that great. I just have 2 knights developed. I don't know, like queen c7, d5, is that? Who's actually hurting more for development here? I think queen d6, d5, knight b6 maybe. Sometimes d5 can be a good move for white, but here I think it would probably serve to just trade off my strong central pawn. Queen e6, this looks like a very strange decision. Putting the queen on a precarious position, Dangerous. Develop pieces. In my mind, I mean, we're basically planning to try to play against the queen. It also inhibits black's development. So he's going to have to play like g6 and bishop g7 here. I thought that queen c7 was a no-brainer in this position. Obviously queen b4 just is likely to get the queen trapped. In fact, it does right away with a3. So you've got 3 squares, one of which loses immediately, one of which is risky, and one of which is, well, queen b8 is a strange move. Now I don't really want to trade pieces. That's the problem here. It's possible this is even theory for black, but I mean, I find queen e6 to be a little too provocative to believe that's standard. I do have a friend who had a similar game, come to think of it. I can't remember how it went exactly last year. It was something like this. This is bizarre though. Yeah, I remember my friend playing like knight takes b6 at some point. It's possible that it was this line. Possible it was this exact line. He like took on b6 just to save time. Generally speaking, this strategically is good for black, you know, both opening his rook and bringing the pawn toward the center. It just reminds me of the game from last year in Zalakaros that my trainer, my second, played against the Hungarian IM. Almost beat him too. He had him hosed and then let him get away. But my friend Emil was basically raking the guy over the coals and got tired and let him slip away. This might be the exact line though. I have a friend, he's kind of around 60 years old. He gets tired very easily. He's very strong, but usually lets the game slip after getting a winning position. And that was the same with this game. So queen d6. Maybe f4, f5. It's crazy. g3 just weakens my position. Well, I guess they're playing this like a pro. I can't remember the name of the guy who played black in the game in question. Bishop f5. Wow. You really have time for that? I believe he has time for all this. Queen e6, queen d6, bishop f5, queen e6, queen d6. How does black have time for these moves? And how is he? Everything's okay. You can just make 100 moves. Back and forth. And I can never open the game. I don't see it. D5 is the key idea, but I don't know how to play it. Pawn takes pawn. Stopping it with a rook move. Certainly threatening my d4 pawn here. Wow. Alright, man. Help yourself. I'm completely okay with losing a pawn. But I've got to find something concrete. That's the problem. I mean, I can't believe the black could just leave his king in the center for the whole board. That's totally okay. Just don't develop your pieces at all. I mean, something has to give here. Bishop e3 was insipid, and I'm not going to play that move. I don't care if I lose a pawn. I refuse. Wow, e6. I probably missed d5 in around here. This is equal. Only equal. Damn, dude. I was talking about this, how solid is this guy. It's like unbelievable. Look at this move. Finally caught him with a tactic. So he missed bishop takes e5. He must play bishop takes e5 intermezzo instead of recapturing automatically on d5. He couldn't take back on d5. He actually had to capture first on e5. A sad and unnecessary game for black to lose. He played very well. It was probably just totally equal. Just to be on the safe side, we'll never get mated on the back rank. Alright, we're up a rook. I can afford to give you a pawn. What am I thinking? Trading queens. Actually, rook takes f7 is a little stronger, probably leading to mate. So I'm very curious about this. Is this really all book, like that whole opening? Queen e6 seems so wrong to me. No, it's not normal. It's played in just a couple of games. There's no way this dude would play Queen e6. Queen e6, the engine wants to play it first, but there's no way Queen e6 is okay. It's just very similar to the other line with Queen c7. It had to be, the other games had to be Queen c7. can't remember the guy's name. This queen e6 guy. He was only played by a couple of random dudes. Dutreyev, Jirovsky. Good players, but this is a very experimental move. This dude did the same as me. He took on b6 and a couple of 2300s. Logical, right? Queen d6. I mean, 9 out of 10 people would play g6, including myself in this position. But he goes queen d6. Bishop f5. I was shocked he has time for that. I played like every normal move. And now rook d8. Safer to play e6 probably. Okay, interesting opening. Eidos Perpetuo. We haven't played in a long time. By the way, if you guys are challenging me, make sure that it's casual between 5-3 and 8-3. I'm not sure if we missed anything, you know, tactically later on, but I don't want to spend too much time. I was just curious if I was misremembering that game. I'll look it up. It's very possible that the lichess database just has games through like 2015. It's not up to date. And the game that I'm talking about was played last year in 2016. So there is a small chance that I'm not misremembering it, that this was really played in my friend's game. The guy played badly with black and ended up winning a weird position he shouldn't have won, but you'd think that he would, a strong IM would know not to play queen e6. Although apparently it's actually not that bad for black. As we could see from this game, as we could see from, you know, the analysis engine, it's not clearly bad for black. Eidos Perpetuo. Okay, I typically play the classical variation. It's like Groundhog Day. Carol Khan Gurganidze. I'm a Ghost asked, what's your favorite chess movie? I always have to double take that because I'm like, what's your favorite chess move? I'm not a big chess movie buff, but I guess if I have to choose, I have to say the Searching for Bobby Fischer, because that was like my generation. And, you know, I know like all the characters personally, except for Bobby Fischer himself. My famous Fischer story, of course, is like I was there at my friend's house once when Fischer called and they talked on the phone. I mean, I was in Budapest when Fischer was here for a while, back in like 1998, 97 or 98, I don't remember. But I never actually met Fischer. I have a lot of friends who met him. Not a lot, but some. And, you know, because Fischer was living in Budapest for an extended period of time. Several years he was living here. And a lot of people might not know that. But anyway, Searching for Bobby Fischer, it's not like my favorite movie, but if I have to choose a favorite chess movie, at least I have a connection to it. Interesting move order from Eidos Perpetuo, which is making me have pause for thought. Don't play A4 too early in these lines. It's not really necessary. It's a classical variation. I'm not threatening the castle queenside. Black doesn't need to play B5. It's actually kind of a weakening move. And I don't like E6. E6 blocking in his bishop seems like a strange move in the structure. Okay. Bishop G4 looks perfectly normal. He's playing a kind of bad hippo. You know, at this point I might play A4 just to restrict him on the queen side. It's probably not a bad move. The halo's incoming. What? What are you talking about? I thought you were talking about the lighting in the camera. Yeah, it's getting toward sunny time. Sometimes I have to cover the window shade. It creates weird sparkles on the webcam. Okay, Itos Perpetuo, you're playing basically a Benoni, a kind of Schmid-Benoni 2 tempos down. I mean, this has got to be bad for black. Of course, I don't have the most aggressive setup in the world. We've got all sorts of alternatives. Black wants to play knight c6 and develop smoothly here. I guess we should analyze forcing moves first. Take, take. Trading queens. Bishop g5. Unconvincing at best. Bishop e3, however, looks interesting. All right, let's just go with the flow. I mean, d5 is fine, but I like keeping the tension here because he is a kind of bad Sicilian. It seems like, with the weakness at d6. But perhaps not that bad. Knight takes a6. It's like a classical dragon. Bishop takes e5, bishop back to e3. I like that a little bit better, I think. Forcing him to play e5. Black has really concrete weaknesses. Wow, so he's just going to let me play knight b5. I didn't think it was really possible, but apparently it is. Itos Perpetuo, and he's like moving instantly. Knight b5, d5, pawn takes pawn. And I've got nothing convincing here. Holy. The other possibility is bishop c4, but I don't feel convincing about that either. I don't feel very convincingly about this. He's gotten away with murder, and he's got 4 minutes more than me. This must be a new Itos Perpetual. I don't remember playing you, Itos, because it's been a long time. But you've out-tricked me here. Maybe bishop c4 is best. I thought I had knight b5, but it's very unconvincing. Thanks for your info. Just at an early time for you. You're talking about the lighting, yeah, the halo starting. Let me deal with that. A6 and now h3, stopping bishop g4. He could have played bishop g4. You know, I think that a6 may have been unnecessary. But now, queen d2 and the threat of rook d1 could pose serious problems for black. h6 was too slow. Hopefully, I didn't speak too soon. But an enterprising player would have found some way to get some activity there. Just doesn't seem like he has enough here. Perpetual time we do not have What does it mean, idus? Is that time? Tukro said, yep. Well, if idus means time, then there's definitely a Latin connection between Hungarian and Latin. All right. Well, Hungarian is basically a conglomeration of a lot of different languages. I mean, it's influenced by a lot of different languages. But this, in this case, the dude is actually playing well. I mean, for 1500, man, you're playing a solid game. It's risky what he did, but he's got some compensation. But the most impressive thing is how quickly he's playing. Imagine if he took all his time, how good he would be. I guess that's my main point. Taking toward the center for the sake of controlling the d4 square. Don't be dogmatic. He had bishop takes h3, but in that situation, it might not be worth it to allow knight g5 check. So instead he just plays a very quick and logical little move there. And I have to be quick and logical because I don't have any time. Bishop d5. Bishop d5. Okay. We'll be materialistic. Probably the biggest mistake of my life here. Bishop d3 was much safer. Bishop takes h3, knight g5 check. Wins the pawn back. But now, I don't know. Bishop d3 was a little bit passive. That's why I rejected it. Now he's threatening to win a piece, so I have this. Hate this move. It's probably fine for black, actually. Damn. He was threatening no matter what I did. I don't know, man. This guy's playing good for 1500. He always has some kind of trick in every position. He's 4 minutes ahead on the clock. I haven't played him since I don't know when. I mean, a lot of people go away from the stream, come back, and they're rejuvenated. They're a stronger player. He's gotten better since last time. Looks like black has tricks here, to keep him completely in the game. 2 bishops, tactics. That's not necessary. Why not just bishop takes c2? Alright, this was an unnecessary sacrifice. An interesting but unnecessary sacrifice for him. He of so much time. Maybe I should play e4. Drop a pawn for nothing. Dude's got 4 minutes. How does he have so much time? I hate that I can't click a hover my mouse and hyperlink to these. Now he dropped a piece. Take back, alright. I have 19 seconds left, but it's cool. Okay, the opening is a joke. But right around here, he started to play really, really well. Only move. Excellent move. And I thought that bishop g4 might be interesting here. a6 is also okay. And now h6. This is a big mistake. His only really bad move. Queen d2. Now white has something. And then f5. I'm winning a pawn, but he still has some counterplay. And I don't know. Here I have to be very accurate. And he plays this bishop f5 move. The computer likes my bishop d5. I thought bishop d3 might be better. But I was terrified here of knight b4, first of all. I guess I didn't really have time to calculate this insane bishop takes b7, rook b8, g4. If I don't have that, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do. If you eliminate g4, it's hard to find a good move for white. I guess knight d6, but it's very, very precarious. I was scared of that. Yeah, bishop d5. But this move also seems okay for black. You know, he's not lost here. He has some compensation, or at least he has enough activity that he's not clearly lost. And then knight g3, and now this was actually a big blunder. He has just bishop takes c2. Even in the game, I mean, rook takes rook. I'm not sure that a5 is my best move here. I almost played rook d7. All right, Eidos. You're very fast, but you're too fast. Why not take some time? Because as well as you played the game, you were still in the game, you know, using just 2 minutes. If you took your time, I mean, you could probably maintain, you know, an equal game. All right. Let's try an English opening. Well, I don't know that he has compensation, but he's not necessarily lost. You know, he's like one pawn down, but one pawn is not really necessarily enough to win in a vacuum, a chess game. You know, I think you need a little bit more of a bigger advantage. Yes, if it's like a king and pawn end game, it's winning, but you can't force the other guy to go into a king and pawn end game necessarily. So the general winning amount seems to be like around 1.5 at least, you know, so I don't think he was necessarily lost. We're playing too fast. As far as takebacks go, the problem is like we've got a lot of challenges, you know, and a lot of people want to play, so if we just do takebacks all the time, it kind of slows things down. Anyway, occasionally I'll allow like one take back on the stream. I don't mind, but it just seemed a little bit late for that there. This is a good line for black. Oh, I knew it. I knew it. Where did this challenge come from? It's rated. And he's like moving instantly. Okay. I'm not going to commentate normally because it's rated. You know, it could be somebody trolling me. We only play unrated challenges. I'm not going to commentate and get in time pressure. Not too much anyway. We'll say some light comments, but I don't want to help him and I don't want to lose my rating points. So we'll keep the commentary kind of general and not going to get in my usual very bad time pressure. So B at DLD. I never played them before. How did they get so high in the challenge there? I don't remember that challenge being before Tom YouTube. I guess it just kind of snuck in there. New opponent, rated challenge. Usually that spells trouble. But we'll see. We'll keep the secret ideas to myself for just this one game. Guys, check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. We've got a channel where we upload all the streams, and basically we upload all the streams over there. We also do occasional videos with different kind of content, just depending on what I feel like every week. Every Friday I try to upload something new. It's opening analysis, or maybe analysis of a Grandmaster game, or review of games from my streams sometimes. You should ask the Bolt to add the feature that allows him to exclude rated challenges from your list. That's not like a standard feature, actually, Gladys Troll. Maybe I can enable that myself. But it's just that it's annoying to like enable and disable it, you know, every day. Speaking of annoying, this recaptures something I sort of underestimated here. That's a strong move. D takes C. Kind of taking the life out of the position. Man, I'm a little worried about this challenge, honestly. Maybe I shouldn't trade queens here. And then he plays like knight f5, actually has a good game. Alright. He also insta moves. BD LD 1800. 1700 in blitz, 1800 classical. Very good decision to play D takes C. Although, I don't know, I guess I expected him to take with a piece for some reason. I shouldn't exchange on C6. Probably the best move is knight C2, but I didn't want to play it because it was a little bit passive. I guess we could also consider bishop E3 here. Anyway, back to the game. Black seems to be fine here. We don't really have a serious advantage. I mean, white isn't worse, but I don't think that white is better. Not seriously so. Yeah, this is best move. Basically only good move for black. Rook E8. I have to be careful not to be worse here. I have no idea how strong this player is. I don't really trust his ratings. I don't know. I'm terrified when people challenge me to rated games on my stream. Usually they're hunting my rating points. And sometimes they're trolling me. Off stream I love playing rated, but I like to be a little bit careful about who I play, because if I see accounts that have like strange ratings, or you know, I try to be aware that there's the possibility people are using engines to play. I don't really believe that it's easy to have tournaments online. Like that's a problem, you know. We can't ignore the fact that people cheat using computers. It's a very real thing, and you know, turning a blind eye to it is not the answer. But so far he's playing really excellently. That's why I had to play rook c1. This was like only move, so that if bishop e6, now a5, very aggressive move for black here. I think I need to get developed before something bad happens. Would be foolish, I think, to neglect my development and go for direct At least dangerous, if not foolish. Direct threats on f6. More important to get myself developed. White has a better structure, but it's not so easy to really benefit from it here. And black's pieces are active. All of black's pieces are active. Now knight f5, heading for d4. Okay, so now knight e4 is possible. But he has knight to d4, threatening my e2. Well, this guy's play is tricky and dangerous looking. Doesn't feel like your average 1800, but I'm very paranoid. Knight d6 though, surprising move. A little bit passive for black. Quite sure what he's aiming for there. Tactics based on a4 and like knight takes c4. This is a surprising move, bishop d6. So I don't like taking the focus away from... He's actually got a point though. He's stopping me from going knight e4 with knight d6. Okay. So black gets some activity here. Actually quite a bit of activity. Bishop takes d6, followed by b4 looks risky. Maybe b4? No. c5? No. Interesting play by black for an 1800, quite good. Giving up his dark square bishop to get in a4. That's pretty solid. I just see a lot of variations where I don't have anything concrete and I'm just like weakening myself. Okay, maybe this is the safest move here. Passive but safe. And he's very fast when he needs to be. So far, black's okay. Still not more than a tiny bit worse. Using his time. Potentially, white could be better because of the bishop pair. But so far, black's held the line. I'm definitely on high alert here. Black's play pretty reasonable. Still, I would say white has at maximum a slight advantage in this position. But he doesn't really have too many weaknesses. The dark squares around the king's side, that's fine, you know, but it's going to be hard to checkmate him here. This is an extremely active and good move. Now I'm forced to defend passively. Now I've got to watch my back rank. Like f3. This doesn't feel like your average player, you know, he's pretty good. Putting pressure on me, no pawn moves. If I make one mistake, I feel like I'll lose. Being super cautious with white. My bishop wasn't doing much anyway, so f3 doesn't hurt. My king is coming up. I think black is still fine, despite white having the bishop pair. Bishop pair isn't all that great here. We don't really have an advantage. It's just a little one, where he could make some mistakes and be worse. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the bishop pair just guarantees you this automatic big advantage, you know, and black's pieces are all very active. They're centralized, well placed. Now that looks like it's hanging a pawn, but I think there's some tricks involving knight e3. I mean, maybe I should just take it, but it's not going anywhere, you know. It's still going to be a weakness. I didn't want to let his knight into e3. Threatening a trick, basically. The knight e4 check was his threat, and he still has defenses. Maximum threatening to win a pawn here, and he's still holding this. c5. Yeah. That's absolutely nothing for me. Just your typical 1800. Black's absolutely holding this. I don't know, he might lose on time. Another good move, h5. Preempting my g4. Setting up all his pawns in the correct pawn structure. The correct color. Flawless. Ever so slightly weakening his position. g5 is absolutely mandatory here. There it is. He's down to just increments, but I think that should be enough for him to hold this position. I never had more than a slight advantage here. And there it is. There it is. Clarica, I allowed it. The tactic, knight e4. Now he's going to take me apart. What a surprise. What a surprise, BDLD. And he like insta-moves everything. God, I knew it was a suspicious account. Yeah. All right, dude. Let's just check out the thing here. Check it out. I was never winning this game. God, that's so irritating. And you see how fast he moves at the end? I made one tactical mistake. I was playing like I was playing a computer the whole game. It's just really irritating, you know? You know the guy's using a computer. I played the entire game like an anti-computer game. Alright, well, I'll just block him. I mean, I don't know what to do. Alright, let's play a human. Tom YouTube, A+3. Basically, we have time for probably 2 more games. 42 rating points to the computer. It's alright. I made a draw against it, basically, which I'm actually content with. You know, that's the maximum I can do against somebody using an engine to hold a draw. Just I hung the tactic with 94 eventually. We got the operator down to like 3 seconds on the clock. You know, I'm certain he wasn't playing necessarily like first choice moves every move, but I'm sure that he was using an engine. 2266. Tom YouTube, where are you, man? Axe Villager, your challenge has actually disappeared. I don't see it. Tom YouTube, are you with us? Alright. Axe Villager, what's your account on lichess that you were... Oh, you're going to play the same variation as the last guy? Is this rated too? That's nice. What? Report it to lichess. You will get your rating points back if they find foul play. Yeah, the problem is the guy's not... the problem is that the guy's not a regular cheater. I don't think he cheats in all his games, and he just did it because I'm streaming. So I don't really feel they should ban him for 1 game. I mean, even though I strongly suspect he used an engine in that game, I don't really think that 1 game against me is enough evidence to ban somebody for cheating. So I'm hesitant to report him. I just don't think that's enough evidence. If you looked at all his games and you found other suspicious games, then I would say we should report him. But looking at his rating, it's probably not a player who's doing it every game. So I think he just did it to gain my rating points. You know, he wanted my 40 rating points was really juicy. So he said, I'm going to cheat against this streamer. And then, you know, he probably doesn't cheat in his regular everyday games. That, you know, so I don't know. I don't want to report him. I'm based on 1 game, basically. You should at least report him just in case. I'll look at the game afterwards and, you know, make a determination on that. Because it's possible other people have suspected him. But based on his rating, there's no way he's cheating in a lot of games. I mean, he's like 1800, so he would be much higher if he was a regular cheater. He would be much higher. Here against Tom YouTube, I've never played Tom YouTube before. He's much higher in classical than in. He's much higher in classical than in blitz. Now I'm paranoid. Everybody's a computer. But it's kind of bad memory, Tom. I just played this variation against the computer. Alright, I tried a different approach here, as in the last game. But either way, I have problems with the c4 pawn. This is something that Mihai Suba talks about. It's kind of a weak point in white structure, which black actually exploited in the last game with the highly professional a5, bishop takes c3, and a4, and all that stuff. It looks like this is a quick move, bishop d7, but he's got that because I can't just take on b7. So the last game, I don't think the guy was trying to be obvious about being a computer, but there's a lot of things about the game that make me suspicious, and he wasn't using perfect moves, but all you have to do to beat a human being using a computer engine is just not make mistakes. You know, it doesn't actually require you to make the best engine moves every move. You know, you just have to make sure that you never ever make a mistake. You never ever overlook a tactic. And eventually the human will make a mistake like I did, you know, hanging that exchange with 94 check, which I saw earlier but then forgot about. So it's really easy to cheat, you know, in online chess. You don't have to be suspicious. You're stupid if you make like all the best computer moves, because that's just a dead giveaway. It's just games like that where like the guy never made a mistake. Basically, slowly, slowly, slowly. If it's a draw, it's a draw. But eventually, the human's likely to make a mistake. If I was in better form, I would have probably drawn the game instead of losing. But I probably never would win unless he lost on time or something. Yeah, after I look at the game a little more thoroughly, and if I suspect him, I'll report it. I don't want to not report people I suspect, but I also don't want people to be falsely banned. So bishop c6, sometimes we're wrong. Bishop c6. Well, I guess I should just play knight to d5 here. We have a very small advantage. Tom YouTube. It's a funny name. Do you have a YouTube stream or something? I would assume so. Can you think of any examples of cheaters in an OTB tourney? Yeah, I was actually there like for the first ever cheater. There was this guy in the World Open in Philadelphia a long time ago, in the late 90s or mid 90s. But the famous story is this Borislav Ivanov guy, who just got arrested in Bulgaria for selling fake driver's licenses or making fake IDs or something. And he's a really famous cheater. Yeah, Grandmaster Sabo Gergo was complaining to me in the summer last year, about how scared he is of people cheating over the board in tourneys. Absolutely. It's a very real threat. And a lot of tournaments don't really take proper precautions to deal with it. So it's not just an online problem, and it definitely is a problem in over-the-board chess too. The most famous is, of course, Sebastian Feller, who's a grandmaster, he was basically, banned from playing because of cheating with the computer. I know for a long time that grandmasters cheat just as much as amateurs. I'm sure about that, but not as much as, but they're just as capable of it. You can't just trust people because they have a GM title. That's not enough. Tom YouTube is playing with pieces, not with pawns. But he's active. Maybe queen e1. I wanted to cover the e2 square. Occasional cheaters can also be caught if you report, like when lichess operates. Yeah, I think that reporting is right, and I don't like chess.com because it's so difficult to report cheaters on that site. I couldn't even find a way to report someone when I played a game on there and I was suspicious of one of the opponents, because I don't want to talk about it all day, but the stream's almost over. Basically, I think what am I doing here? Look how active his pieces are, dude. It's scaring me. I think you should make it easy for people to report people, but you also have to really double check, who you're accusing, and it's tricky, and it requires resources to correctly catch people from cheating and for cheating, and I don't know that a lot of chess sites really have adequate resources to do that. Tom YouTube, I've never played this guy, but he's extremely creepy with the piece play. He's given up the long diagonal, kind of like our last opponent, just playing with pieces. Now he's got the d3 square. Good God. Queen e3. Just pieces, no pawns. What about f4? Tom YouTube is 1900 in Blitz, but 2266 in Classical. Very few games. Most strong master players wouldn't want to give up their dark squared bishop in such a position. But he's got this incredible piece coordination. Check it out. I'm glad this is not a rated game, because I'm probably going to lose this one too. Not that dissimilar from the last game. Most human beings wouldn't want to give up the dark squared bishop. Our last opponent. Okay, that's one of the things that tipped me off. Look how similar this is. A5. Similar to last game. Now f4. Knight d3. I have queen d4. f4. Knight g4 check. Pawn takes pawn. Knight takes f4 check. King goes somewhere. Knight d3 again. So I think I can play this. I might have missed some kind of computer-like tactic, but I don't see it. He doesn't have knight d3. Knight g4 seems insufficient. So he'll have to retreat. If my calculations are correct, which they aren't necessarily. But I don't know anything about this player. Tom YouTube, I think he's been on my stream, but I never played him. A scary opponent to play. You know, after the last game, I feel like everyone's a computer. Honestly, this is paranoia that starts. You know, but it's extremely similar to the exact last game. You know, in the whole nature of the position, the a5, a4, giving up the dark square bishop, pressure on e4. Same opening system he played, you know, the same exact opening, c4, e5, knight c3, g6. I mean, talk about like a bad memory. It's like he's remembering the last game's moves. I don't know, but it's awful similar to the last game. For me, it's like a bad memory. Generally speaking, all right, what did I miss? Generally speaking, what was I going to say? The rated games are the ones that I'm really worried about, because all of my regular viewers know that I'm playing just and the other thing about the last game, I played full strength, and I didn't really commentate on the game, and I still lost to a guy who was supposed to be 1800. I purposely went out of my way to play as if I was playing a computer, as safe as possible, also not using time to commentate, and yet I still lost. Yeah, this what I thought you saw this, Tom. You didn't play because you could have played it the previous move. And I thought you saw the threat of queen h8. That's the only weakness in your whole position. Other than that, you have a monster position. I mean, if it wasn't for this dark square weakness on the king side, I'm getting crushed because of your piece coordination, which is incredible. But here you don't have knight d3. I wasn't sure, but I'm paranoid after last game. Everybody is a computer. Yeah, Spinal Tap. It happens. Tom, is this you? Is this you, Spinal Tap? Your alt account? Let's see. When I see a lot of piece play, very few pawn weaknesses, very few pawn move, very conservative with the pawn moves, I start getting like, well, this is probably an engine. You know, that's one of the signs, basically. Because humans tend to make pawn weaknesses, but computers have been programmed to be very, very cautious about that. Oh, what did I just do? I just hung an exchange? Wow. I'm a little flustered from the last game, honestly. Alright. Now black has some really serious compensation. He's probably better. Just a little upset by the last game. Reminds me a little too much of last game. The only difference is that this isn't rated. In this case, I was totally winning, though. Now keep in mind that Tom is 1900 in blitz. Let's see if we can hold on where he's got just a 33-second increment. 33 seconds in the increment. He's got 2 pawns for the exchange. Now if this was a rated game, I'd say my chances of holding on were 0. Alright, he's trading pawns. Yes. Now keep in mind his blitz rating is 1900. And he can play instant moves. And maybe we have some winning chances here. This is really, really tough position. I don't know. This was a weird game too. Yes, this guy was like, I'm also 1900 and I just played a game with 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, 0 blunders. I didn't cheat. It happens quite often, but my opponents aren't IMs. Don't be so quick to accuse everyone of cheating. Dude, I've never played a game with 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, 0 blunders, and didn't cheat. It's easy to do that, of course, Yasami. That's very nice, but it's kind of ignorant to pretend that there's no computers here. Alright guys, let's play one more game before the stream's over. We've got ASDFFGHJ. It's just funny how the rated guys always beat me, isn't it? They see the rating and they want to take it out. They want their points. But in the unrated games, they don't do it as much. Up-and-comer, I don't think you appreciate the problem with cheating. It destroys online chess, you know? You can't just take it in stride like it's totally okay. It's not, you know. I mean, I've been playing chess for 30 years, and I've been playing online chess since 1991. You know, I think I have a pretty good sense for when people are cheating and when they're not. I can tell the difference. I mean, it's not like I wildly go around accusing everyone of cheating. I'm not like crazy about it, but I'm usually right when I have a feeling about it. You know, it's not about what the stockfish says. I mean, I can just feel it. The way people play. You know, when you get to be a more experienced player, you'll really develop more of a sense for the difference between human and computer, you know, styles of play. There's a very specific kind of way that the engines play that maybe someday will actually be indetectable, but I still think that I can feel a very distinct difference between the two. So this is a b4 wing gambit, and I actually had a friend who used to play this a lot with white. There's some, you know, there's some lack of development on black side here. Also some white square weaknesses because the bishop's outside the pawn chain. I think that's significant. I don't know about taking this pawn on c3 though. I'm always hesitant to take this. I can take it, but eventually seems like he'll get it back. I think I should just develop my pieces with something like knight h6 or knight e7. There isn't any fancy tactics. That's the whole point, man. I mean, someone would be stupid to play cheating with a computer using fancy tactics. That's like the dumbest thing in the world to do. If you're using a computer to cheat online or anywhere over the board in a tournament, do you think that you should be playing fancy tactical variations to try? It's obvious that you're cheating if you do that, you know. I mean, the people that are smart, they're not going to show you up with like 5-move tactical sequences. I mean, that's the most dumb thing they could do. I mean, you're going to see just solid play, and they're never ever going to make a mistake. If you play 100, if you see like 100 games from a really good online computer cheater, a really professional one, it's hard to tell. I mean, they're number one. I think the number one factor is that they never ever ever make a blunder. You know, you see like 100 games, they never ever make a blunder. Now tell me that's like humanly possible for someone to play like hundreds of games without any kind of blunder? Never. You know, that's for me the scariest part. I mean, if I was like trying to catch people as a professional on online chess sites, that was my job, I would be looking out for those people, you know, who never ever make a mistake. I mean, no human being can play like that. It's not, the days of computers like only understanding tactics are gone. They can play extremely well strategically. I mean, there's no need for tactics. They can just outplay a normal human being positionally. I think that's a fallacy. That used to be the case in the 80s and 90s with computer programs would have to be like playing purely tactically, but not anymore. It's just, you're going to give yourself away if you try to cheat with the computer and you're just constantly playing flashy 5-move combinations. Nobody would do that. I mean, there's a lot of legitimate grandmasters that are terrified of people are cheating in over-the-board tournaments. It's not just a problem in online chess. But if you start playing flashy combinations, you get caught. Alright, now, we're just winning a pawn here, but he's got a5 disrupting my queen side. I don't think it matters. I can take on d4. Just take on d4 if a5, queen c5, and then I'm going to take on e3. And the important thing that I have the intermezzo, knight takes e3 in this position. Guys, this is the last game for today. We're going to be back tomorrow with fast chess, 5+3, blitz and classical, and only 5+3 tomorrow. It's Fast Friday. Now we have to go back to c6 here. I wanted to go to f5, you know, to threaten. Actually, maybe it was better. Knight f5 threatening knight takes e3. Yeah, it was better. All right, this is still good enough, though. We're going to win a second pawn on e5, and e3 is hanging. This was too cautious. I should play knight to f5. And what doesn't happen is that people play without making any mistakes the whole game, you know? Very rarely do I have a complicated position where I don't make a mistake. Yes, there are games like the dude's talking about where you have 0 center pawn loss. But that's like the Queen's Indian game I had earlier today, where basically nothing happened, you know? A totally symmetrical position where nothing happens, of course you have. I wouldn't accuse somebody of being a computer in a game like that. I mean, but this was a very, very complex positional game with a lot of stuff going on. I would, you know, eat my shirt before I would think it wasn't an engine, or at least assisted by an engine. And I was playing full strength without even commentating or spending any time. That's different, you know. There are definitely games where 1800s can play with no center pawn loss. Of course. If you look at my stream today, you'll see the Queen's Indian I played. Nothing happened. The guy had 7 center pawn loss. I had 8 center pawn loss. I didn't accuse him of being a computer. I know he's not a computer. It's a totally different case. You can tell. But you need experience, you know, to play for 30 years. And I'm not, like, new to the internet. And I'm not, you know, an old man. I've been playing internet chess since 1991. I can tell the difference between a human and a computer. It's not that difficult. But occasionally, you know, you do get false positives and you accuse people who are innocent. And that's the nature of justice, you know. There's a lot of people in jail because they're falsely accused of committing a crime. But, you know, it's only in utopia are there going to be, like, no false positives. For the most part, though, I don't advocate, like, accusing everybody, you know, lightly. This is not my policy. All right, we have a very good game here. This a-pawn is kind of getting in my way. I want to free my a-pawn to promote. That's the wing gambit, and this is the wing pawn that he sacrificed. So hopefully the a-pawn is the decider. Right, human has a wide range of meanings. Well, yeah, if you get into a philosophical debate about that, what do I mean by human? Well, yeah, if you talk to a cybernetic engineer, yeah, I mean, artificial intelligence will become basically indecipherable from human. What is human? That's, okay, a philosophical question. I mean, the computers definitely play more human than they used to. It was easy. It was easy before when all they understood was basic tactics. There's a funny story that years ago, in the first computer era, like, not the first computer era, but when first I started playing chess in the late 80s, there was some computer entered in a tournament. Basically, we're going to sacrifice a pawn here temporarily. The computer was entered in a tournament, and Roman Gingiashvili was playing, and Igor Ivanov was playing. And Igor had to play the computer, and he had never played a computer, so he had no idea what to expect. And Gingy messed with him. He went to Gingy, he's like, what does computer play like? I don't know, you know, how do I play against computer? And Roman was messing with him. He was like, yeah, it's very positional. But, you know, if you play just for tactics, computer is very weak, you know. So Igor actually lost the game because of Roman messing with him. He went and, like, started to, like, sacrifice all his pieces like Paul Morphy, and the computer just took him out. But that definition is not holding anymore. It was one of Roman's mean tricks. He did other strange things. Once at the Olympiad, when he was playing on the same team with Walter Brown as for the U.S. Olympic team. Gingy, he was tired of Walter like coming late every round, so like the night before the round, he went into the playing hall, and this is the story I heard. He went into the playing hall, Gingy did, and Brown was scheduled to play black on whatever board, the following day. Can I do this? And another mean trick was queen takes, pawn takes, queen takes. This is good enough, right? So another mean trick, what he did was, Brown always plays the Najdorf, and he knew that Brown's opponent played e4. So he went and he actually glued Brown's c-pawn down to the board, like one of these paper boards, and he glued the felt on the bottom of the pawn to the board. So Brown came in late, as he always did every single round, getting in time pressure, coming late to the game, and he ran to the board and picked up his c-pawn and picked it up, and the whole board flew all over the place because the pawn was glued down. This was a great story. So here I'd calculate a bit, ASD, very tricky play. You got to be accurate here. But the a-pawn is a decider. We're up the exchange, and we managed to liquidate everything. We'll be back tomorrow. It will be 5 plus 3. ASDFF. I've never played him either. For some reason, this name was kind of familiar. I thought we had played before, but apparently not. Was this a player who said you had another account? No. Alright guys, thanks for joining me today, and we will be back with Blitz and Classical tomorrow. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to Plucro for moderating. Was he disqualified? No, of course not. Nobody ever found out at the time who glued down the pawn, and it remained a mystery. I don't know how long, but Brown didn't get in trouble. It wasn't his fault. Nothing happened. It was just a laughing joke, like a practical joke. But pretty funny idea, actually. ASDFFF says, been playing for 2 months by now. I think that tactically you seem pretty good. 2 months. I've known people who've been playing for 10 years, and they're the same level as ASDFFF. So that's pretty good, dude. You play chess for 30 years, you'd think that you'd encounter this sort of play style a few other times. I've been playing chess for even longer than that. Just online chess for, well, let's see, online chess for 26 years, probably. Alright guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for joining me, and take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.